right, guys. So tonight we're here with one of my dearest friends, master barber, and huge inspiration for me, my man George Vega, aka J Vega 360.
What up? What up? What up? What
What's
up?
up, George? Yo, thank you,
What's
brother.
good, Dan? How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
All
Glad to
right,
finally
brother.
get this little sit down with you.
Yeah, man. Been long overdue.
Long overdue.
Yes, sir.
I've been coming to you for almost 10 years now. It's kind of crazy, Time flies. Time really does fly. I remember being that shy, timid guy coming in here, no direction, out of control life, and it's almost like you picked up on that. Like you sniffed it out and be like, yo, this dude's like a good guy, but definitely be you need a little assistance here and there. Because
Yeah.
one thing I've always said to you from coming in, I can be having like the worst day. As soon as I hit that door and I come in, it's like a recharge, and it's just always been a blessing every time I come in here.
And that's
And
part of the purpose of what we do and what I do as, being more than just a barber. Like, and a lot of times inside of the barber industry, you'll hear that term because a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, you're just a barber." And, as barbers, we're so much more. Having the opportunity to be at the forefront of our community, to be able to engage with the people in our community. And a part of the responsibility that we have is if you're having a rough day, I should be able to tell. And I should be able to make this experience something that would alleviate whatever it is that you're going through. This is a place where a man could be a man. It's one of the few places where a man can come and have his peace and just relax and be in a male driven environment to where he could just be himself.
started, man. So I remember you had told me, growing up, you mainly just had your mom there. What was that like? Not really having like that ultimate, that immediate father figure role for you.
Well, I mean, for the first portion of my life, I did. I had my stepfather who was there for the first portion of my life up until about fifth or sixth grade, who taught me a lot of things, instilled a lot of values in me that taught me and shaped me how to be a man at a young age. But we wasn't taught the things that we needed in order to thrive in life. We was taught what we needed in order to survive. My stepfather taught me how to fight. He taught me how to stand up for myself. He taught me how to, basically be respectful in a sense towards my elders and stuff like that. But then there came a point in time where, he exited the situation, and from there, it was just a series of different individuals coming in and out of your life, and knowing that you have a biological father out there that you don't hear from, that doesn't send birthday cards, Christmas cards, nothing. It's like, that had an effect on me, especially being a young kid playing football when, the only person that would come to my football games would be my grandfather when he could make it. But then there was other times growing up to where I didn't have nobody there, so that bothered me a lot, and I held a lot of resentment in my heart over the years growing up as a young man towards my father for his lack of being there and being present. I don't care what he went through with my mother or whatever the situation was. In my mindset, you just don't do that to your child.
No, absolutely. Now, did you ever see your stepfather going forward after the year he left? Did you ever meet him in your later years of life?
My later years of life, yes, I did get to see him when I went on vacation down to Maryland because he lives in Baltimore, and I got to see him briefly. But after that, I really didn't see him too often. After that left, it was kind of like when he made the exit, and he was gone, and that was a challenge in itself. Even though the situation was crazy, there was a lot of fighting and drug abuse and different things like that taking place in the household. That was still my father. That was still the man that was there for me. That when I asked him, can I call you dad, that said it was okay for me to call him dad, and he gave me that father figure when I needed it as a child.
And that's hard to find. Some people they don't have that role model. That person to look up to, and I feel like that's a lot of the reason why they always put attention on men's mental health. And I feel like those
Mm-hmm.
early stages are a big part of it.
Yes.
Even for somebody like me, my dad was there, but he wasn't there. So like when you're saying, you at your football games and stuff like that, I had to look out for my mom out in the crowd. That's all I had to be there for me. So
Yeah.
even though my dad wasn't there, I feel your pain because it was almost like he wasn't. Quality time for me with my dad was sitting down watching TV. And while that's cool, I wanted to be able to go out and play catch and stuff with my dad. And I didn't have those things. So that male role is crucial to have, especially at an early child. But now, would you say that pain you felt, maybe that's kind of what had you tiptoeing that line as you started to hit your early adult years, where you're on the streets and you start developing this life of crime, if you want to call it, in the sense of like, whether you were touching on drugs, getting high, alcohol, well, let's just say substance. Would you
Yeah.
say that was a big driving force in that?
Um, no, I think it was a culmination of just different things. The first time I sold crack was at 12 years old, when my mother's dealer he basically manipulated me and took me out, and I was in North Carolina at the time and took me out there and had me sell crack at the age of 12 years old. But I think a lot of me getting into the game and getting involved with drugs was just birthed out of necessity. Like my first hustle was, I had one of my boys steal candy from the store, then we'd bring it to school and then we'd sell the candy, and then we'd be able to make money to have it for whatever we needed it for. But when I got to North Carolina, that became a means of survival because at that point in time they were selling the food for drugs. You know what I'm saying? They would buy chunks of meat with the food stamps and then sell it for drugs. And, so there was moments where there was no food in the house. And then when I was in North Carolina, I couldn't find nobody to steal for me. So I had to put in my own work. I had to steal for myself. Um, but I did what I had to do. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? I
yeah.
did what I had to do. And I would, sell candy and then, come home and buy, whatever groceries I can, eggs, bread, hot dogs, things like that I can cook as a kid, just to make sure that there was something in the refrigerator. So, not having my father there and watching my mother struggle and go through what she went through as being a victim of domestic violence and then having mental health issues as a result of what she'd been through, and then the substance abuse issues. And so, if you look at it, man, you just have all these things that just become like an avalanche effect, to where it just keeps piling up, piling up, piling up. And then you get exposed to different things. Now, mind you, growing up, I didn't think any of those things was wrong because it was all that I seen.
Yeah, it's like almost normal.
So when you grow up in that environment, you don't think that you're doing anything wrong because everybody that you're around is going through the same stuff. Everybody that you're growing up with is dealing with the same issues, because we grew up in a project environment, in a community environment to where, the vast majority of the individuals, man, A alike, B alike, C alike. So we was all going through it. So a lot of what I wound up eventually getting involved in just came second nature to me because it's all I ever seen as a kid.
Yeah, like you said, you see all these things and it's just normal.
Hmm.
It's normalcy. It's like you said, you don't think you're doing anything wrong, but later on in life you find out it's not exactly right. Now, when you say with substance abuse, I know we've talked briefly about this in the past before. You were a big ecstasy guy, right? That was
Well,
like
yeah,
one of
yeah,
your
yeah.
big.
I smoked weed. I was into, I used to like the white boy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
that was always my thing. Like,
that party stuff.
yeah, there were certain things that I just wouldn't do because of, my mother's substance abuse history. So, I wasn't sticking nothing up my nose. You know what I mean? I wasn't smoking nothing out of. I ain't even like smoking weed out of a bowl. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
just the whole pipe thing.
just reminded
Like yeah, just I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I smoke blunts. But but my thing was, it started out with smoking weed. Now, mind you, I was an athlete. I put it on. She's bypassed.
you. Oh yeah.
I'm doing the interview.
I'm so, so
And
of course I
no,
would
and I
interrupt
turned
that.
I turned it off, but it's on bypass. And
I'm sorry, babe. I don't know why I thought it was at 7 o'clock. All right, I
all
love you.
right,
I'm
love you.
sorry.
All right, Siri, turn off phone.
I didn't know she could do that. See, you learn something every day. We just gonna roll with it, man, because the people love to see a little,
Yeah, yeah, no,
keep the
no.
rawness going here.
But
So
yeah, so but where was we at? Oh yeah, but I was an athlete and I was anti-drugs. Like, even coming up, like my boys when they started getting high, I'll be like, yo, why you doing that? Why you know what I'm saying? But then eventually, you're around it long enough. It's like, yo, let me hit that
yeah,
blunt. You know what I'm
try it
saying?
out.
Like, yeah. It wasn't even one of those let me try it out because they had respected the fact that I didn't want nothing to do with that at a young age
I
because
see.
I was an
Yeah,
athlete. You know what I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
And
Be
they
like,
was like,
yo,
nah,
he's gonna
yeah,
make it out of
like
here.
yeah, leave him be, leave him be. But then it got to a point to where I was around it. I was getting money. I'm seeing it. It's like, yo, let me hit that blunt. And then after that, it was off to the races, man. It's like you're into the life now.
Yeah. Now you see, you said before. See, I I applaud you because for me, my dad was pills. and watching him, I find him sloppy as hell everywhere, and
Yeah.
I still tried it. So the fact that you saw things that your mother was doing and you weren't about it, that's good. That's tough, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel a lot of people were just so quick to fall into it. I'm sure you ran into people before too. People that even just like drinking. Their fathers or mothers are alcoholics or brothers or sisters, and they still they're hesitant to take that drink, but they still do it.
Yeah. See, and that was the thing too. Like I experimented with alcohol, but every time I drank, I had alcohol poisoning. So alcohol didn't agree with me. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the sins of the fathers, will visit their children. And my father was an alcoholic. My father was a drug addict and a drug dealer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, alcohol didn't resonate with me. And there was opportunities to do other things because my boys were getting high at a young age. Coke and what I'm saying, sampling with all different types of stuff coming up. But I just knew I didn't want that. But if you're talking some acid or some shrooms or some, you know what I'm saying, like I was with that party back then.
A man like to trip out, like
Yeah,
they
listen,
say.
man, I like to get out of my mind and get out of this world.
Yeah,
But that was my escape. And then when ecstasy hit, man, like ecstasy just caught me by storm. And
yeah.
I thank God that that I got arrested when I did and got incarcerated because that was my wake up call and that's what pulled me away from that lifestyle.
Now, you mentioned about being incarcerated. Do you remember like how exactly it went down?
Drug charges, yep,
Just
both
drug
both times,
charges.
yep. One time, my first felony charge is I was with my boy. It was a buy and bust. The second one that I caught in 2003 was just by chance, wrong place, wrong time, got pulled over, and and it just happened. It was just one of those things. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it happened because it's what saved my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's that wake up call. Now, you got incarcerated. You became almost reborn with religion, right? That's is
Yeah,
that is
not
that the steps
religion.
that it
Yeah,
went?
no, I wouldn't say reborn with religion, man. I had an encounter with Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't just one of those say a prayer, but it was a real, genuine encounter and experience inside of the county jail at a Promise Keepers meeting to where I didn't even want to go. There was one dude that when I came into the unit, it was just like, yo, come to church, and I'm like, yo, I ain't going to church, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm fresh off the streets, like my mind is twisted, and I didn't know what I needed at that time, but this one individual just stayed persistent. And the one day I decided to go, I had an encounter with God, man. And it was just like, I felt the presence and the peace come over me. And I just wept and I cried in a room, full of other inmates. And it was an amazing experience. And then I went back to my cell. And when I was in my cell, it seemed like, it was filled with a blinding light. And I was just on my hands and knees crying for hours. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't that long, but it just felt that way because of the level of the experience that I was having. And that right there, yeah, I would say that became my born again experience because then, a piece of me had died and a piece of me was being reborn at the same time as a result of having that interaction with Christ.
Man, that's deep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
deep. I can remember sitting here in the chair the one day with Pastor Rich. He gave me that sinner's prayer,
Hmm.
and I felt something I couldn't even begin to explain.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what you were going. How you felt that day in that chapel or the.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
probably what it was, right? It was a little
But
chapel.
that speaks to the power of God because God is a spirit, and the spirit can have impact inside of this world and on the lives of those that trust and believe. And man, like I say, from there, I'm not going to say it's been an easy road. And I'm not going to say that I haven't made mistakes along the way, but I know that I have a savior. I know that I have an advocate. I know that I have help in the presence of my trouble. I know that I have strength in the midst of my weakness. I know I have clarity in the midst of my confusion. Somebody that I can always go to, one that would never leave me nor forsake me, one who's merciful, one who's gracious, one who's loving, one who's long suffering, one who's kind, one who's patient. Like, so to know that I have that now in terms of having a heavenly father when growing up, not having a physical father, I think it made all the difference in making me the man that I am today.
Yeah, well, man, it's great that you were able to find that, George. You
Hmm.
know, so we'll switch over here real quick. Now, you've been cutting hair since how old were you the first time you picked up a pair of
Man,
clippers?
I first picked up a pair of clippers in eighth grade in Scotchtown. One of my boys, Seneca King, shout out to Seneca. He was cutting hair in eighth grade. and this dude had a line out the door doing $5 haircuts. And I was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, man, I want to do that. So then I got my first pair of clippers, and this was before Walmart, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, people would say Walmart clippers, but Walmart wasn't even around then. But I got my first pair of clippers, started cutting my own hair, my cousin's hair, my grandfather's hair. Then it was my boys, the football team, and had my first job out of high school. No real mentorship or guidance or anything like that. And you know, it wasn't until I landed at a shop called Maestro's, and I was underneath the leadership of Dave Ortiz, and he really taught me a lot and put me in position to be a barber.
Oh man, eighth grade. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Start cutting hair, and you're like, yeah, why not?
Why not? I never thought that it would be my career, though. I never thought it would be my profession, because like you, I'm IBW 1249. You know, I worked in the tree business, union guy. You know, so it was either the streets, doing tree work, or cutting hair.
Or cutting hair.
Those are my three things that I went back and forth through, throughout the course of my 20s going into my 30s. But it wasn't until I reached my 30s that barbering really, I seen the potential with it, and I was like, wow, I can be a licensed professional. I can control my time. I can determine how much I want to make based upon, the work that I'm willing to put in. And I took it serious, did what I had to do, made sure I got licensed, and from there, everything just fell into place, man. God began to bless me and bless me with a shop. I wasn't expecting to be a barbershop owner. And, in 2015, I got my barbershop. And from there, it's been, a beautiful journey. And the rest is like history, man.
Yeah. And what a wonderful shop you do have, man. It's always there aren't too many barbershops that I've been in, obviously, because I don't have hair. So for the longest time, I never really felt the need to come into one. But just great atmosphere in here. Like I said, from the moment you hit that doorknob, it's like for me, it's always been all the problems just don't matter. Like you said earlier, it's just a place for men to just come and just feel almost revamped.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a great feeling to be in here. And the shop is just good. It's awesome. And obviously, you always do. You're
Yeah.
a master barber because you do your thing.
But that's one of the things that I take pride in the shop, man, is that when people come, man, like they can come in and that they can just sense peace. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So me,
definitely.
me being a child of God and being a carrier of His Spirit, like when people engage with me, I shouldn't have to tell them that I'm a believer. I shouldn't have to tell them that I'm a Christian. I shouldn't have to tell them that I go to church. They should just be able to notice something's different.
Yeah.
Something's different about the atmosphere. Something's different about the environment. Something's different about the conversation. Like something's just different,
Yeah.
And a lot
Yeah.
of people, they want to run around and say, I'm this, I'm that. Like I don't speak and testify to myself. I just let the light speak for itself. The light that lives on the inside of me, I want it to fill this barbershop. I want it to fill the lives of everybody that steps foot into these doors. I want them to have an experience, to where they can say, man, there was something different about that barbershop. And then eventually what happens is what takes place here spills over into our community.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of the community, you definitely are starting to get. I see you're getting a lot more ties to the community now. You're doing all these speakings to the youth and stuff like that. You've always been, as long as I've known you, you've always wanted to reach out to the youth. What finally got you to really go all in on this?
Yeah, well, you know what it is? It's like when you've experienced a certain level and degree of pain, you don't want to see nobody else go through it.
No,
And
you
it's
don't.
like, you know what? If I've been through it and I know the way and I can come back and show you the way, I feel like I have a responsibility to do that, because I understand what potential looks like. And our young people are filled with so much potential, infinite potential. Like they can literally become whatever it is that they want to be if they just understand the process of becoming, if they understand the process of being able to deal with life in order to have it shape you, make you, and mold you and position you for what it is that your assignment's going to be, whatever it is that you're called to be in life. So to leave a young person out there to figure it out on their own, like I had to figure it out on my own, for much of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had mentors, but they taught me the streets. And I'm not mad at them because that's where I was at. So it's like, yo, if you're going to be out here, you're going to need to learn how to play the game so that way you can survive. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
now it's like, okay, I'm not in the streets no more. I don't live that life. But if I see a young person out there struggling, and if I'm saying you're going to do this thing called life, you're going to need some help. You're going to need somebody to teach you some things, especially if you don't have a father. Or if you do have a father and he doesn't know what it is to be a father or to be a man, because he's passing on the same brokenness that he experienced growing up. And there's a lot of people that are like that are just unaware of what it is that they're passing on to their bloodline, of what it is that they're passing on to the next generation. So I just try to be that individual that can step in the gap, that shares his own personal experiences and takes what I've learned over the years through my mistakes and through my mentors, because there's one or two ways that you learn when it comes to growth and development. One is mentors, two is mistakes.
Yeah.
So if I can stop you from making some mistakes and offer you some mentorship and guidance and give you some tools and some different things that you can utilize in order to benefit you and help to get the results that you're looking for in life, I'm all for it. So, that's my call, that's my purpose, that's my mission. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've kind of come to a pivot point in life to where I'm transitioning from being behind the chair to actually wanting to be more out in the community, being into the schools, going into the jails, and sharing this information that I've been able to learn over the years and that we've been able to package with our program called the Mindset Makeover that I did with my mentor, Flory Hiatrides. And then we're kicking down doors with this thing. So it's really about, once you get to a certain level in life, contribution becomes your main focal point. It's not about what can I get anymore, but it's more so about what can I give and who can I help.
Yeah, exactly. What can I do? Man, that's so awesome. Because like I said to you before, I feel there's no better person, at least that I know of, to do these things than somebody like you who has been there. Like you said, you're learning or you're teaching through your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked before about for these some of these kids that are being passed down brokenness from their parents. It's like kind of what you touched on even with you. It's what you think is normal. Now you're showing them like, no, this isn't normal. There is another life that you can live, and it's awesome, Jordy. It's really awesome to see. And I hope that this thing takes to the moon. And even if at the end of the day you only inspire one mind, hey, that's great.
And that's the motto. If it was just for one, it was more than worth it.
Yeah.
When I think of Jesus Christ going to the cross, what he suffered, what he endured, the price that he had to pay, to know that he would do it for just one soul. One soul meant that much to him, that he would endure the pain and the suffering of the cross. How much more should I commit to the process and the work to which God has called me to, just to go get that one? Because that one may be the spark that can start a wildfire. That one can be the next prophet. That one can be the next, Moses, that can lead people out of darkness, that can lead people out of bondage and into the promise. So you never know what the end result is going to be of the work that you're committing to when you invest in that one individual, because that one individual is still a seed. And when the roots grow and the fruit begins to bear, who knows what it's going to produce or how many seeds will reproduce after itself. So that way they can impact and they can inspire future generations to come. So my thing is this, man, I never judge the results. Like, I don't keep count. I don't do numbers. What I do is, did I do the very next thing that God asked me to do when he told me to do it in order to reach whoever it is that he called me to reach at that very moment? And as long as I did that, then I take my hands off of it, because the results, it's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people want to, I speak to you and then I want to see the change. That change may come 5, 10 years down the road. I don't know. I'm not in control of that. He is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I'm in control of is my faithfulness and my obedience to being able to do what it is that I'm told to do when I'm told to do it as a servant and a soldier.
Almost like saying, as long as you did the best you could to give it out, at that point, that's all that.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, because you don't know what type of soil you're sowing on. You don't know if there's thorns and weeds there that are going to choke that seed. You don't know if it's falling upon stony ground that won't allow the roots to take shape. You don't know if it's falling upon a dry, barren ground. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if it falls upon good soil, then we know that's where we can see the end result and the manifestation of the promise that was given to that individual in terms of their potential and their destiny in life.
See, man, this is why I tell you, George. This is why you're an inspiration because you're such a positive person. No matter what as long as I've known you and the struggles you've been through in the short time that I've known you, you always just seem to remain positive. You always had that smile on your face, and you don't let it beat you down.
But you know why I do that? I do that to protect my peace. Like once you understand what peace looks like after coming from chaos, you're going to do everything that you can to protect that. Because most of the things that we do, we don't do them just to do them. We do them for the feeling that they give us. And the feeling that we're searching for most of the time is to be what? At peace. So I found my peace in being the type of individual that I am and being the man that God has called me to be. And now that I have that peace, I protect that peace at all cost. So I have to make sure that I have tools because I go through it just like everybody else does. I go through a cycle of emotions just like everybody else. I deal with fear. I deal with doubt. I deal with insecurities. I deal with anger. You know what I'm saying? I deal with sadness. I deal with depression just like everybody else. But I have tools in my toolbox that I can go to that help me deal with these things because now I'm an aware individual. So we teach this thing called emotional intelligence inside of our program. And awareness is the number one foundation because what you become aware of, you can control, and what you can control, you can now change. So I'm aware of my emotions. I'm aware of my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I have a process to where I identify them. Where are they coming from? Are they helpful or are they harmful? You know what I'm saying? Should I act upon this one or should I let this one go? How do I respond versus reacting when dealing with different situations and circumstances? So I've learned how to take a step back because of the things that I've learned, and it's helped me to be able to stay positive, to be able to stay in that space to where my peace isn't disturbed.
Oh man, that's amazing, George. So, bro, just one last question for you, just to kind of wrap things up here. If you who do you look for inspiration? There, I mean, obviously, you look to God to help you see the way, and maybe to answer some questions that you might have. But if is it, are there people around you, who?
So my thing is this, like a lot of times people will look to people for inspiration. I look to inspiration itself. Don't let that go over your head. I don't look for inspiration in people. I just look for inspiration as its own entity, separate apart from being connected to any one individual. Because once we're aware, once our eyes are open, once we begin to look at the world around us, there's inspiration everywhere. We can be inspired by anything. I can be inspired by a person that's going into the garbage collecting cans. I can be inspired multiple ways. One, to make sure I don't wind up in that situation. Two, to know that, you know what? If it comes down to me providing for my family and eating, maybe I may have to swallow my pride and walk in humility and do what I got to do by any means necessary. Maybe I'm inspired to say, you know what, God, you have blessed me abundantly. Let me go and give to that person whatever it is that they're trying to provide for if I got it in my pocket. I'm inspired by I go and sit by the river all the time. I'm inspired by the river, the way that it just flows. You know what I'm saying? To
Yeah,
know that on top it could look calm, but underneath it could be turmoil. To know that the river can flow in two separate directions.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm inspired by the way that the wind blows through the trees.
Or how the sky looks before or after a storm.
Exactly. I'm inspired by it because I look to inspiration. I don't look to people. Because if you look to people, eventually people will let you down. People will disappoint you. Sometimes when we look to people with for inspiration, we put them on a pedestal. And then when they don't inspire us, now we look at them differently. And that's not fair to people because they're going through their own issues as well. So I always look towards the lesson. You know what I'm saying? I always look towards the blessing and never the source, never the individual, because I know that my source is always, yeah,
There,
is
yeah.
always him.
That's great, man. Well, listen, man, I thank you so much for taking the time to come and sit. This is.
So what do you mean we're done? This is it? I thought we was having a
Oh,
conversation.
you want to keep it going? We can keep it going. Listen, man, we can keep it going. Just, I thought maybe keep it a little sweet, but
Yeah, no, but the thing about it is that you're doing something for yourself right now. You're building a page. You took a chance on Dan. You bet on you.
see, this
You
is what I'm
understand what I'm
saying,
saying?
man.
But seriously though, you
No,
know what I'm
no,
saying?
yeah, yeah,
When all the things that the internal obstacles and challenges that you had to face just to be able to do this. I don't want to give you just a short conversation because what you're doing it means something because what you're doing is going to help people.
yeah.
You know what I'm
I guess
saying?
it's I guess in a way what I'm doing right now, and I never really looked at it like this, is sort of like a kind of a bite off of what you're doing with your mindset makeover. You know, we're just looking to inspire. That's what we're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we just want to help people because I haven't faced. I mean, you don't have to put. I'm trying to see like the best way to word this. We've both been through struggles,
Yep.
you know, and we just know what to look for, and we don't want to see other people have to face those exact struggles. So, all right, well, we'll keep it going then. You see,
But the thing about it is my pain is no more significant or less insignificant than yours is.
well, that's what I was saying. Like, you can't
You
really
know,
put like a
yeah,
comparison on it,
you
nor
you
nor
really
should
can't.
you,
You
nor
really
should
can't.
you.
You know, because no matter what somebody is going through, that's their reality.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that they're feeling in that moment, that's relative to their experience, and they're allowed to feel that.
Yeah,
So I can't say because yo, I went through this, and oh, you ain't really go through nothing.
yeah.
Like
You ain't been in jail for
how do
for.
you how dare you say that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what you had to deal with that night, laying in bed as a kid, scared. You know what I'm saying? Like or the different levels of insecurities that you dealt with as a result of the lifestyle that you had to live or the way that you was raised as a child. Like that pain is your pain, and to whatever degree it's impacted your life, that's the degree that that's just the magnitude that's what it's at. I can't put a number on your pain. I could put a number on mine. So, when you do this and you share these stories and you have these conversations, people are going to be able to relate because they're going to say, well, damn, maybe I didn't go through what he went through, but what I went through was real to me. And I'm still suffering from it. And you know what? I do need help. Maybe I should seek, some outside help to be able to get some tools to be able to help me process my pain, to be able to help me process my emotions, to even make me aware of my
I was
emotions.
just say go to your toolbox for awareness,
You know
like
what
you
I'm
said
saying?
earlier.
Yeah, to even make me aware that my emotions need to be put in check. These are the things that we need to be doing in this season. And it all starts with people sharing their story. The Bible says that you overcome by the word of your testimony and the power of the blood of the Lamb. You know what I'm saying? So the more that you share your experience and what it is that you've been through, the more it helps you heal because it no longer has hold over you. A lot of times we hold on to things that we've been through because there's guilt and shame attached to it. You know what I'm saying? And we're wondering how we're going to be perceived by others because we went through this. But when you release it, it no longer has any power over you.
I will say that's definitely something I've always struggled with, even in my early days as a kid, is like just the perception of what my peers of what they would think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I had friends that, on paper and when you go over to their house, it looked like they had the perfect life. You know, parents are successful, they had the money, the parents, they have a great relationship with their parents. They can go outside, they can get those opportunities to play catch with their dad and stuff like that. And me, I couldn't. So I was picked on a lot, and that
Mm-hmm.
bothered me as a kid. And I think up until I made my interview on myself, I carried some of these emotions around that I even forgot how they made me feel. And when I was finally able to just talk about it on film, man, I felt like $1,000,000
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah, because that's a release.
Yeah,
You're not holding on to it anymore. You're
no,
releasing it. You're letting it go. And some of you that are out there that are watching this, then maybe there's something that you're holding on to that you need to let go of, that you need to surrender to God. Jesus tells us to cast our cares upon him. He says that our burdens weren't meant for us to carry. He tells us to take upon his yoke, for his yoke is light and his burden is easy. So, one of the things that we do, and they do this in AA and NA, is where you do the personal inventory. And an inventory is like going into the back room and checking to see what's on the shelves. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like what stock do we have back here? What's on the shelves? And a lot of times we don't do personal inventories. And we have all these things on the shelf. Things that are contaminated, things that are outdated, things that no longer have any use, things that we can't sell no longer, and you got to go in there and you got to do a personal inventory. You got to rotate your stock.
you mean like internally?
Internally,
Internally.
yeah, internally. Because listen, what's going on outside doesn't make a difference if what's going on inside is a mess. Your external world is always going to be a direct reflection of what's going on internally. because what's going on internally is going to affect your perception, how you see things, your outlook. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so like for instance, let me just see. So when you see people, you maybe you're running into whoever on the street, and he's saying like, he's not doing well here, the same in this town. He's like, well, I'm moving to Florida, hoping for a fresh start. That old saying of, well, you haven't faced your problems directly. No matter where you go, your problems are following you. Would you say that's kind of
Yeah,
something
yeah. You're bringing them with you. They're in your
because
suitcase.
of that? Yeah, exactly. The personal inventory.
They're in your suitcase. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, and a lot of times it's this: you don't need to change your environment. You need to change your mindset. You need to change your perceptions. You need to change your outlook. And there's science that's behind this. There's this concept called cognitive reframing, CBT, which is a therapeutic psychological approach to be able to help people, just reframe and reevaluate the way that they see the things that happen to them in life. You can look at it as a lesson, or you can look at it as a blessing. You can look at it as pain, or you can look at it as purpose. You can look at it as a setback, or you can look at it as progress. You have choices. And that's one of the things a lot of people don't think that they have, is when they're going through things, is that I don't have no choice. No, you always have a choice. You just need to be made aware of what the choices are that you have. So that way you can start making choices that are going to align with the future and the destiny that you want.
sometimes, man, like I said, your word is powerful. It almost leaves me sometimes like speechless because it's just like it's just a lot to take in, and when it hits you, it really hits you.
Yeah.
So, real quick, I've always wanted to ask you this too on your opinion on this. So, you're obviously a product, a big religious person.
I'm
Do you?
not religious. I hate religion.
Okay,
Let me make that clear. I hate religion. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I love the Lord. I love my Heavenly Father. But I don't do religion, man. I don't do religion. I do relationship. You know what I'm saying?
so
Like,
then I guess the better way for me to rephrase that is you pride yourself on your relationship with the Lord.
yes, yes.
Do you believe it's possible to have a good relationship with the Lord and accept the Lord into your life without going to church every week? Do you believe that's possible?
Yes, I believe that's possible. Yes, because the church wasn't meant to be a building. The church was meant to be a people. And he says that he makes us his dwelling place. He says that our bodies become temples for the dwelling place of the Spirit of God. Now, I'm not going to say that the church doesn't serve its role, because the church serves a role, because it teaches you, it equips you, it prepares you, it shapes you, it gives you fellowship with like minded believers. So the church exists to help the believer grow, but the church isn't a prerequisite for having a relationship with God.
See, for me as a kid, my parents took, well, my mother more or less, she wanted me to have a relationship with God, and I was, baptized and communion through the Catholic Church, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I hated going to church. I did not like any bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I'm a young kid, and I think, at that point in my life, maybe I just wanted to go out and play or whatever the case may be, but I just didn't understand the concept of going into a building, standing around with a bunch of people. I didn't understand anything that the pastor or the priest was saying at the time. To me, it just felt like a waste. But I always was in fearful of the evil, I guess that's in the
Okay.
world.
Yep.
I
Yep.
wanted to have a good relationship with God, but just I had such a bad experience early on in my life with church that I didn't want any part of it. That's why
Yeah.
I had to ask that, because I want to have a relationship, but I'm still like, I don't know. I guess it's just I go back to where I was at as a kid, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah. And that's a mental block. You know what I'm saying? And you have to overcome that. But I will tell you this, man, that um, church hurt is a real thing. Our pastor just preached on this about 6 months ago. It's a real thing. I was church hurt. You know what I'm saying? There was times that I was ready to walk away from church, but I would never walk away from God. I will never walk away from Christ. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that my role is to actually be in the church. You know what I'm saying? Because I serve. I have a servant's attitude. So wherever I can help, because I know that there's constantly people coming in, new people that are coming in, that are going to need somebody there to be able to welcome them, to be able to pray with them, to be able to. So we have that mindset. Um, but I say like this, man, it was never a waste, because every word spoken that comes from that Bible is a seed that's being planted in your heart. and you never know how that word has been activated, so that way it can, in sense, be a sense of provision and protection inside of your life as you grow up and as you cultivate that relationship with God. By the mere fact that you still have a desire to have a relationship with God, it could have been a result of that. That could have just been your introduction. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you ever have a bad slice of pizza, but you don't stop eating pizza? You go to the next spot and, okay, well, you know what? I didn't like Bruno's. No shade to Bruno's. I'm gonna go try PJP. I ain't like PJP. I'm gonna go try John of Arthur Abs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep trying what you like until you find what you like. Once you find what you like, you stay there. Like, well, they got good pizza here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like that with church sometimes. I hate to say it like that, but you got to find the place where you feel comfortable, where you feel like the word is speaking to you, where you're feeling the love, where you're feeling the presence of God. My biggest thing is this: when I comes to a church, do I feel and sense the presence of God when I walk into this place? Because I know my Father.
Yeah.
I know him. I know when he's present. If I don't feel his presence, I'm out. Nothing personal. Just ain't for me.
That connection isn't there.
Yep.
That's really a very good way to look at it, actually. I never really thought of it like that. Maybe that's exactly what it was for me. Maybe as a kid it was just bad slice of pizza. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's the weird analogy to use,
Yeah.
but you're right though.
Yeah.
You're 100% right with
Yeah.
that.
It's a bad experience. One bad
Yeah, one
experience.
bad experience because that's what it was. Is my mom just kept me going to that church because that's where she went as a kid, and I think that's what it was for her. That was her spot, and that's cool, but that doesn't mean it's my spot.
In her mind, she thought she was doing the right thing.
And I'm sure she was, but like we just said, not for me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
Just because it works for 5 other people doesn't mean that's going to work for the other three or the other two or the other one.
But this is the beautiful thing about relationship. It's up to you to cultivate your own relationship. Now that you know, you're responsible for the decision that you make as to whether or not you have a relationship with God. Our parents can only introduce us. In the beginning, yeah, they force us because we're underneath their household, we're underneath their rules. You're going to church.
Yeah, they
Like,
want you to have this.
but then there comes to a certain point to where you got to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm guilty. There's times where I don't pray all the time, and sometimes I'm driving to work, and I'll just talk, and I know God's listening, but I don't touch base with Him as often as I should, and it's not because I'm shunning Him out of my life. It's just we get so wrapped up. I guess I forget to take the second and kind of just see everything around me and just give thanks.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
a big thing I noticed with a lot of people too is they only seem to pray to God when they want something.
yep.
Whether it's please God let me win the lottery, which hey, I'm guilty of doing that. They got all these raffles and things going on, and I've been guilty of it even as early as a week ago, as recent as a week ago. Praying to God, please let me win the Powerball, and then I try to justify to myself. I talk to Him, well, if I win it, I'm just gonna do successful things for all the people around me, which I'm sure He's thankful to hear me saying that
Mm-hmm.
selflessness there, but He wants to hear how my day's going just talking,
Mm-hmm.
simple conversation like this.
Yep, yep.
And I feel that may be a reason why sometimes for people their prayers don't get answered.
Yeah, because he's not a genie in a bottle.
No, no, and people need to stop looking at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even myself, and I'm
So,
guilty of
so
it.
like this, right? So even as a father, if you have a kid and your kid only comes around when they want something, how's that relationship going to be with that child? Are you constantly going to give them what they want just because they want it?
No,
No. Sometimes you're going to be like, listen, that's all you come around for.
yeah, get
You know
out
what
of
I'm
here.
saying?
Yeah, get out of
It's
here.
not get out of here, but it's like, there's so much more to me as a father that I can offer you, that I can give to you. Why are you so focused on these little things? Like when he says that, I sent my son in the world to give you salvation, to give you eternal life in my presence. You know what I'm saying? To give you an eternal peace, a hope, a joy, an expected end. Like, but yet all you can concern yourself with is you want $1 million. It's paper that's not even worth what it's printed on. It's not even backed by anything. But when you think about the salvation of your soul and what we inherit in the kingdom of God by way of salvation, the blood of Jesus Christ, it's like, man, we might want to start changing what we ask. Like now, I don't ask for things, I just ask God for wisdom, because I know as long as I have wisdom, I'll be able to maneuver and navigate any situation in order to have a favorable outcome in my life.
That's deep in itself too, right there. These are things I'm glad that I can talk to you about with because I know you will help me understand things a little easier than somebody else. And I feel that's another fear for people is that they're not willing to learn because they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know. And when it comes to religion, I never really understood all of it. I thought you just went to church, you said your prayers, and then you went home, and then that was the end of it. But you know, the relationship with God is just a day-to-day thing. You know, and people
Mm-hmm.
definitely don't take that into consideration with life. And I remember actually one time I go back to another memory I have of sitting here, and Pastor Rich was sitting here, and we were talking. Shout out Pastor Rich. I don't know if you
Shout out
remember.
Pastor Rich, South Carolina.
We were sitting here, and he was just. I remember him saying specifically, he was standing at that door, and he looked out the window, and he was said, "There's going to be a lot of people that you know that go to hell because they don't have that full relationship with God. They may think they do, but they don't." And I just remember sitting here sweating, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be one of those people. And since then, I have not fully committed to to God as much as I should. But it's definitely opened my eyes to where I pray more. Then we talk to him a little more. But like I just said, it's some of those prayers get a little
Yeah.
I'm like going around when I want something.
Yeah.
It's not, it's something that I definitely need to work on myself because I want to have the best relationship I can with God, and not to turn this whole thing into to talking about the Lord, because I know other people may not believe, and that's for you guys to decipher. But to me, that's a big deal, and to talk about it with somebody like my good friend George, it's awesome to do. So, getting a little choked up over
Nah,
here.
don't listen, man. This is why you do what you do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're talking, and we're going to talk freely. Like you're talking in terms of creating content. You want content that's going to resonate with people. You want content that's going to come from an authentic place
Yeah,
where people that have been through what you're going through look at this video and say, man, like I can relate. I can feel the energy of what they're saying coming through that screen, and it's impacting their life. That's the power of your words. That's the power of your assignment. You're not just doing this to do this. You're on assignment because there's people out there that you're going to reach that are going to need what you have to offer. And only you can give it to them.
yeah.
There's this thing called divine appointments. You know what I'm saying?
Divine appointments.
Divine appointments, when people show up to a particular place at a particular time for a very specific reason that they don't even know of, and then they encounter the presence of God, they encounter their breakthrough. You understand what I'm saying? They
Yeah,
encounter their power. They encounter the piece of information that has been missing that's kept them or held them back from or kept them from moving forward or moving closer to destiny. These these interviews and these type of situations, they set up those type of divine appointments because you never know who's going to come on your YouTube page or scroll down scroll down their TikTok or their Instagram or their Facebook page, and they're going to stumble upon this, and it's going to be the very thing that they needed at that very moment in order to help them continue to press forward in life.
that's exactly what we set out for. That's an incredible feeling to know that, like we said, even if it's just one person, that's fine with me. I go on TikTok live quite a bit, and I don't care if my page isn't full. I go on at lunchtime at work. I go on when I'm home, 20 minutes, half hour, and I'm content with it only being just one person in there.
Mm-hmm.
And to get that interaction, knowing that people have enjoy my videos, it makes me feel good. When I did my interviews, George, I probably had about 5 people reach out to me and tell me that my video, my interview impacted them in some type of way where they felt they felt good. They felt that a change was needed. It's helped them to reflect, and powerful. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the first word, only word I
So
can think
so
of.
you look at it like this: if you set out with the mindset to do that, mission accomplished.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So take the pressure off now. Mission accomplished. We already, you know what I'm saying? Set new goals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, raise the stakes a
Now,
little bit.
now we go from wanting to impact one to saying, you know what? Now I want to impact thousands.
With word, with the word.
And watch what happens. See what happens.
Yeah,
Because as you raise your level of expectation, so does your level of manifestation raise as well. You only get what you expect.
and in the beginning, I didn't expect any.
Exactly. And I'll tell you this: you want to know why most people fail? It's not because they aim too high and miss. It's because they aim too low and hit every time.
I always just felt that maybe they failed because it's like they were just afraid. Well, I mean that is
Yeah,
true. That is
the
true.
bar is so low.
Yeah,
They're not afraid to take risks. They're not afraid to take a chance. They want to go for the short shot every time.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
They
yeah.
want to
That
go
makes
for
sense
what's
better.
easy.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to step outside of their comfort zone. They don't want to face that criticism, or they don't want to face that rejection. They don't want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But it takes courage to be able to step out and do that. But then to be able to do it for a selfless reason. See, most people want to succeed for selfish reasons, but then there's others that want to succeed for selfless reasons, where they say it's not about me.
about you.
I've been through what I've been through. I dealt with what I had to deal with. I have more than enough. Now I want to be able to do it for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're in for. And when you said about being afraid, that's why I've kind of drug my feet with getting this started. Because that younger guy I was when I first came in here, that was my dream even back then.
Yeah.
I want to get this thing started, but I didn't feel like I was in the right headspace then to get it start to really get things going. And some changes had to be made on my part, which obviously we all know I've done that. And then it's just the fear of everybody else. That's something that I've always been always worried about for as long as I can remember. I've always cared about what other people think, and you know what? I'm tired of that. I'm tired of stressing myself out, wondering what George is going to think just because I'm interviewing somebody, or what person B is going to think. Even at my job, I deal with this. When I was hesitant on even posting these things because I was afraid of sitting around at the lunch table and guys are going to be making fun of me because here I am interviewing people or posting my gym workouts or posting just anything I can think of that's going to help you, the viewer, to try to be better in life. And I don't care about that anymore. If these guys want to make fun of me, that's fine. But clearly they're just as lost as I was. They just haven't realized it yet.
And I tell you this: the ones that criticize are the ones that have accomplished nothing.
Yeah.
The ones the ones that are doing what you're doing, they're not criticizing. They're too busy working to criticize. They're applauding you. You know why? Because they made the same mistakes that you made in the beginning. They understand the process. They know what you're going through, and they're rooting for you and cheering for you to keep going because they know in order to do what it is that you want to do, you have to become that individual before you can step into it.
Yeah.
Before you can do whatever it is you say you want to do, life is going to take you on a journey to make you that person, to make you that individual. So that way you can step into it prepared to be able to operate at the highest level.
Be strong enough to make it through
You
the
know,
storm.
and like you saying, like your boy, he was saying, right? The haters feed his page. Like you gotta have thick skin. Like you gotta be able to deal with that. You gotta remember your why. And then you gotta remember where they're coming from. You don't know what that person's dealing with. You know what I'm saying? They may be attacking this, that, and the third, but yo, that's just a sign that there's something going on with you. Because I'm doing a good thing here. And for you to knock it and criticize it, like what's going on with you? What's your pain point?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What's causing you to reject something that's good? So that your perspective shifts on everything. And once you have that perspective shift, the rest becomes easy.
Yeah. And even when you're saying with these people that are criticizing, they could be living the negative life of and they think it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like you and I did,
Yep.
where we've come from our past, they just haven't recognized yet that something's got to give. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody because some people do have. I don't want to say success. See, I don't like to throw that word successful out there because some people look at success as financial gains, other people look at it as just wisdom, but they may feel. I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this.
But success and how
Just
people view it and
just
how
how
they
people view it. I mean, I guess no matter what, you're always going to find somebody that's not going to like what you have to say.
and that's the truth.
Yeah,
The biggest mistake we could ever make is thinking that we could please everybody.
and that's something I struggle with because I, like my mother, am a people pleaser completely.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's something I'm trying to steer away from because I watched my mother do that her whole life, make all these sacrifices, not just for me, but for the average person on the street. We'll be driving by and she'll say she wants to stop and feel sorry for him. That's just because she's a good person. But sometimes I have to tell her, Mom, it's time to, we got to worry about you right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can't.
But I'll tell you this, to the person that tries to become a friend to everyone, he becomes an enemy to himself.
Yeah, I that makes sense because they're not looking at what they have to fix in themselves or what they have going on with their life.
The person that tries to become a friend to everyone becomes an enemy to himself. Because then you start compromising, then you start, you know what I'm saying?
Settling.
You start making a lot of decisions that just aren't in alignment with who you are and with your purpose and the direction that you're moving in life. So now you become your own enemy because you've allowed outside energy inside of your space, inside of your atmosphere, that's going to hinder you and keep you from being able to move forward.
And dictate your life. To let it.
I'll tell you.
I'm guilty of that.
So am I. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there, and it just comes a point to where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
And sometimes you say, you know what? I'm just going to focus on me. You ever say that? Like, you ever wonder that? Like you're betting on yourself now, and you're starting to see results in terms of your own personal validation. You don't need an outside person to validate you.
No.
You feel good about yourself because you're doing what it is that you know that you're called to do. You feel good about yourself because you know you overcome your limiting beliefs. You feel good about yourself because you know that you've overcome your doubt. You've overcome your fear. You overcame everything that held you back. And that's what happens when you bet on yourself. We'll put money on everything else. We'll invest our stock into anything else. But we never really take the time to put it into ourselves, to focus our energy on us.
I don't know why we don't.
That's where you're going to find your greatest reward.
I don't know if it's because maybe we feel it's more difficult to invest in ourselves and it is into somebody else. Like for me, it's even like just like it's something as simple as giving somebody advice. There was a time in my life, and I'm sure you maybe have had it too. You could give all the advice in the world to somebody else, but when it comes to taking it for yourself, you don't use that.
Yeah.
I could tell you, yeah, if you go out and if for financial gains, if you invest this, and this, you will make this, and you probably will. But when it comes time for me to do it, I'm not doing that.
I've done it.
Why is that?
I've
Are
done
we
it.
afraid?
And that's because we have the information, but we don't have the determination. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, information without application is really just information. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want wisdom, you have to take knowledge with understanding, and then that bursts wisdom. If you want results, you have to take information plus application in order to get the results. So I can give you the information, but I'm not giving you my results because I haven't done it myself. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a lot of things that I know how to do that I haven't necessarily done because I've seen it work for other people. And then I can point you to that resource. But, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But in the most part, sometimes you do have to practice what you preach,
yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
especially if that's going to be your go to. If you say, this is what I'm doing, let me teach from experience. Let me speak from experience. So that way I can share with you the wisdom, that not only the information, but the understanding that I have through experience that birthed the wisdom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I agree completely, George. Well, I guess this will we'll leave you with one last question here,
One last question.
and this is a good one. What advice? What's the if there's one quote, if you want to call it, or just one go-to piece of advice that you find yourself constantly giving somebody? If you're using it the same phrase or whatever, what do you think would be that one thing?
Man.
So like I can give you what my mom has always told me.
Yeah, go ahead.
My mom always told me, you take what you need from somebody and then you leave the rest. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what it is exactly that phrase may be, that somebody may be telling you, or a lecture or lesson or whatever. But whatever you need from that, you take it. Whatever else you didn't, you just leave it right there. And that's something that I always try to think about now. My
Yeah.
mom will tell me the same thing 100 times over. And that's fine because I'll just take whatever I need from it. And if there hits a point where I don't need anything from it, that's fine. But I'll just still let her,
Yeah.
to give me that lesson.
So for me, the stereotypical thing to say would be trust Jesus. Give your life to the Lord. That's the church answer. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what most people would expect.
Yeah.
But one thing that I learned that one of my mentors, Dr. Delatoro, had shared with me, he said, George, just focus on getting 1% better a day. That's it. Don't try to accomplish it all in one day. Just focus on getting 1% better. And he said, I bet you that in 365 days, you'll be 365% better than what you was when you started. Now, if you break that down, that's about taking things and breaking it down to the smallest number. Only doing what you can do at that moment. Don't put too much on your plate. Just focus on getting 1% better a day. Make each day better than it was the last and continue to build on that. And then you'll get that compounding effect that would just cause your growth to grow exponentially. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh, I do.
So now that 1% becomes 2%. 2%, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, when you look at principles of multiplication, you know, you begin to grow at a rapid rate because sometimes the big picture can be too intimidating and it will cause us to miss out on the small details. So when you focus on becoming better at 1% every day, you're focusing on the small details. And that's where success is found. Success is found in the details. So every day, you know, 1% better, 1% better. You know, you can do it by setting a list. You can set your intentions. You can have affirmations. You can do all these different tools that are going to put you in that space or that mindset. But just focus on getting 1% better a day. And like I said, forget about 365 days, right? How many people wouldn't want to be 100% better than what they are today? Well, if you focus on getting 1% better every day, it'll only take 100 days in order to do it.
Yeah.
And your life would look totally different than what it was when you started.
When you started. Now I remember real quick to kind of go up with that. Once upon a time I came in, you used to have these the motivational speeches playing on TV,
Yeah.
and I actually took a lot of that motiversity, and I put them on my workout playlist. And there's one quote that resonates kind of with what you said that the one gentleman said. It's dream big, start small, and act now. And that's to me that's kind of resonated with me with what you're saying. You know, don't focus on the big picture because if you try and do it all at once, chances are you're not going to make it. So like you're saying, no, just 1% better.
Yep. And don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, that's where the real value is in life. You know, most of the times, some of our best lessons, some of the most, you know, most valuable lessons that we've learned have come through failure and come through mistakes. So you can't be afraid of it. It's a part of the process. Embrace it. You know, accept it as feedback. You know what not to do, how to do things differently the next time. But you know, we want to make sure that we're failing forward and not backwards.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
well, listen, George, man, I appreciate you taking
All
the
right,
time, man.
Dan.
This has been great.
No doubt, my
You
brother.
know, well, guys, this wraps up for George today. You know, maybe in the future we'll revisit him again, but for now, that's it. Thank you guys for taking the time, and stay tuned because we're just getting started.
And if you have not made Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, I beseech you to do so today. Here's an opportunity for you to say, Lord, here I am. Don't know what I'm doing, but I want to give my life over to you. I want to surrender control and I want to see what happens. I trust you. I take you at your word. I understand that you sacrificed your life for mine so that way I could have life and have that more abundantly, that where I'm at isn't where I'm meant to be and that you have more for me. So I just, I challenge you, man, take time, go into prayer, ask God to reveal himself to you. If you're going through something and you're dealing with something, I promise you, he's an ever present help in our time of trouble. Jesus Christ is the way, the life, and the truth. And no man can come to the Father except it be by him. So, take him at his word. Give him a shot, man. Reach out to him and see what it is that he has for you because we're just vessels. We're just messengers here to share his word and to shed his light in the midst of darkness. And that's why God has called an individual like myself and an individual like Dan. So that way we can stand in the gap and be there for individuals like you because once we all come together, it's better to win with a team than it is as an individual.
Yeah.
So, with that, God bless you. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right, guys, we'll get some more. Who's next?